Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. I know there looks like there's quite a few people pouring in still. Wanted to thank you for joining today as we announce our LEAP 2.0. So there's been tremendous amount of work being put into this over the last year, and we'll go through all those details coming up pretty soon. We're going to be joined today by the folks that you see on the screen. Steve Stencil, founder and CTO. So he is the man, the myth, the legend behind LEAP. He created it, and it has evolved into the beast that it is today to help you guys run all your businesses. We've also got Kaynat. Kaynat is one of our most talented individuals when it comes to understanding what LEAP is and what its capabilities are. No doubt she has been the vessel by which many of you have onboarded your companies. She, if you didn't know, was employee number 2 within LEAP. So she knows as much or more than Steve about the back end of LEAP. So if any of you guys have been fortunate enough to work with her, feel free to shoot her an email and say thanks, because honestly, she is just a superstar and we're extremely fortunate to have her on the team. So if you're not familiar with myself, I'm the annoying person who does these webinars consistently for LEAP. My name's James. I'm the VP of Marketing and Partnerships here at LEAP, so I handle pretty much all of these, as well as any of the materials that get put out for LEAP, and a lot of the partnerships and integrations that get built into this as well. So if there's anything that you guys have in terms of questions, comments, concerns you want us to elaborate a little bit more on, we're going to be monitoring the question section throughout this entire webinar. So if you could, do us a favor and drop those into the question section, and we'll go from there. So in the meantime, just to get used to that, tell us where you guys are joining from. Throw that in the question section. We're all dialing in from the greater DC Baltimore area, so it's always great to see where you guys are at throughout the country. SLC, nice. Thank you guys for dropping that stuff in. It's always fun when these things are interactive. Thank you for joining us again. So we'll let a couple other folks get on board for the next probably like 30 seconds or so. That number of attendees is still creeping up pretty quick. So whatever we can do to give them a little chance to come on board, that's always a good thing. So in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll just do a couple intros. So again, as I mentioned, these are the faces of the folks on the call. So Steve, feel free, we'll go left to right, and just do us a favor and introduce yourself. I'm sure everybody already knows you, but if not, feel free to say what's up.
Hey, James, can you hear me?
We can.
All right, great.
Kaynat, you want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today. Looking forward to this webinar with everyone.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And then that ugly mug on the right, that's me. So pretty excited to be here with you guys today. Anything that I can do to help you out, obviously, throw your questions into that question section. We're going to be monitoring those. On the back end on our team, you want a cool LEAP t-shirt. I like that, May. We've got some stuff, so we'll talk after this. So I've also got Michelle with us. She's our marketing manager. She's going to be monitoring these questions along with us. Before we jump into our next slide, what I want to do is I want to drop in a quick poll. This is just to make sure that we understand who's on the call today. It just helps us cater a lot of what we're doing. So as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, or in that poll section, it probably popped up on your screens. It's really who's on the call today. You know, if you're a current LEAP customer, if you're a prospective LEAP customer, or if you're just completely lost or feeling sarcastic. Feel free to drop that in there. We're going to leave this open for probably another 20 seconds. 73% of you have voted. We'll get that up to about 90 plus. If you can hear me, you need to vote. And then we'll get this thing rocking. We're at 78 right now. Come on. A little more. There we go. Keep it going. Couple more people. All righty. So I know we got a lot to cover, so why don't we just go ahead and close that. We got a pretty good understanding of who's on, and we shall continue henceforth. All right. So we're really only going to go over a couple things today. It's a lot of info, but it's really only boils down to three things. So we're going to take a look at the timeline first and foremost at which we've been building this. While a lot of folks think these things happen overnight, they sure as hell don't. There's been a tremendous amount of time and effort put into this, and we'll show you what that looks like. We'll then dive into the actual meat and potatoes of what Leap 2.0 is, what the differences are between what you're used to and what you're using, or what you're going to be using moving forward. And then we'll also just tell you a lot around why we did it. It's one thing to tell you what changed, but it's also another to give you the insights onto why we did it. Two very, very different points, and to be totally honest, extremely relevant. The last thing we're going to do is we're going to open this up to Q&A, and we'll also talk about next steps, when this stuff fully goes live, what that looks like, ways to get additional support, etc. So again, if you have any questions whatsoever throughout this entire thing, drop them in that question section. We'll address those at the end when we get to the Q&A section. So as we mentioned, the first thing we want to look at are the timelines. So we didn't start this yesterday. In fact, when we start looking at the timeline for when we started building this, we actually started building this thing in April of 2018. So internally, the executive staff had a conversation, and Steve, you can allude to this as well too, since you're the one who created it. But
Yeah.
You guys all sat down in a room. Tell us how that first section came about, where you're like, we got to fix something.
Yeah, so the current admin site that all the customers are used to was honestly kind of like thrown together. We were growing very quick. We needed an admin website, and we stood that thing up fairly quickly. Compared to what it usually takes to build things in the development world. And we realized that, hey, as we were growing, we're trying to adding things to it. We found ourselves keep like backtracking, redoing things. More than what we were actually developing and making new things. We're fixing old stuff instead of, being able to build onto it. So we realized that, hey, the technology that it was built on is not really what we wanted to be to scale with the business. So we decided to basically just build it from the ground up, just throw everything that we had built on the current site away and start from scratch with a brand new code base, so that way we can build upon it. So I'm really excited about that, because now that we have all basically the core foundation of what our admin dashboard needs to be, moving forward in the future, we can add a lot more features and functionality to it.
Exactly. So again, you guys, I come from the tech space, not necessarily the home improvement space. And when you're going through the product lifecycle, when developing anything new like this, to Steve's point, usually you stand up some sort of minimum viable product that functions and works and does what it needs to do. But we want to eliminate any of those barriers to customization in ways that you guys can cater Leap to really fit into your business as best as possible. Because all of you have little quirks and styles and secret sauce that make you special and make you honestly or really build the reason why your customers choose to go with you in the first place. So, and why you're successful. So as you look at the timelines throughout, we started work on this last July. We hired additional staff in October. We added a number of new developers, and that team is consistently growing even today. In January, we actually stood up a site internally, which was actually a really cool launch we did around our Christmas party and New Year's of last year. So we came back in and we said, all right, you guys, hey, poke some holes in this. Let's try and break it. Got it to a place where it was doing really well. And at that point, you need to go get proof of concept with some key customers. So we also stood up a number of individuals that were part of the pilot group, had them test it out. It was obviously something where we found a couple bugs and hiccups, et cetera. But the overarching theme and the message, whether with Leap 2.0 or with this beta group, was that, oh my God, this is so much better. So Steve doubled down with his teams and really got us to where we are today. We started all new companies in like mid-April on the new site just to get them used to it. Again, work out any of the last minute issues and items. Now we're going to the full rollout where we're going to be handing this to every single one of our customers starting this month. So pretty exciting. It's been a massive undertaking. I got to commend Steve. He spent a lot of sleepless hours on this.
Indeed.
A lot of sleepless nights. Yeah, that's an understatement. Thank your wife for putting up with it. But honestly, it's so exciting to see what's happened over the last little bit, and it's cool to be a part of it. So let's continue into the good stuff. All right. So this is where we're going to dive in. We've broken this into a number of different topics within the upgrades and the updates. So there's really 5 if we want to keep this as simple as possible if you're taking notes on any of this stuff. So it's 5 main topics that we're going to be going through. We've got your price guide, the contracts, application settings, account management, and we've created a standalone self-help and documentation center within the new websites. So there's 5 main things that we're going to be focusing on. Without further ado, let's start jumping into these with the price guides. I'm going to hand this one off to Kaynat. She's going to walk you through the first couple pieces of this, and we'll take it from there. So Kaynat, take it away.
Thank you, James. We are, again, really, really excited to have everyone and show you guys the awesome, awesome features that we have been working on recently. Now, one of our major updates is this price guide section that you guys are looking at right now. We have completely changed our price guide user experience. Among the old site, I mean, if you guys have worked with the old site, you guys know a lot of the functionality was there. But when you were in there building your price guide, it was really hard to navigate through, manage your products. To do a single step, you had to take 5 more steps to edit an item, to add an item. And we've changed all of that. So now with the new site, we've made major improvements to make it easier for you to edit your simple products and even multiple products all at once. So with the new site, it gives you access to all of your products in one single view, and you can edit from the same exact view. Now, this is changed. For these upcharges, you can go through, if you have been working with upcharges, you know it was difficult to go through each one of your upcharges, make an edit, and then click out of it to go to another upcharge and make the change. Now with this, you can quickly view everything all on one screen, make copy, make edits, and make all the changes all you want from this one view right here that you see.
I'll elaborate on that. This is Steve. Let me just elaborate on that real quick, because you can also copy and paste options from like the one measure sheet item to another. So if you're familiar with this price guide, it makes it where you can duplicate data one to the next, and we took this logic off of our import-export spreadsheet, because a lot of our customers, the feedback we have gotten is they like working off of the spreadsheet, but there was no way to really edit the upcharges on the spreadsheet. So we basically took the best parts of the Excel spreadsheet and built them into a website. So now you can edit not just measure sheet items, the actual options, all the prices on those options, and then all the upcharge, utilizing all the copy paste functionality across all of the fields. So you not only copy paste the text, but you can also copy and paste all the additional upcharges, or there's all the other fields like additional details and placeholder fields. You can move from one to the other. Sorry to hijack that kind of, but I wanted to talk about the copy paste, because that was a huge implementation that we put in this.
No worries at all.
And you guys,
and one of them, go ahead.
All you kind of.
And one of the last thing here in the price guide section is our new deep drill down view, which is one of the new views that Steve is going to talk about in greater detail. This new view is introduced from a lot of our customer requests that we've been getting lately with a way to organize multiple products. So go ahead and Steve dive into it with the deep drill down view and show us exactly how that works.
Yep. So the deep drill down view is a way that you can click into basically like drill down into a specific line item. We had a lot of requests where like if you put in windows, or you put in like any kind of like kitchens or bath products, you have like a category and then you have a subcategory, and that was pretty much the end of it. But now you can go into, we call it a deep drill down, where you can have as many of those basically breadcrumbs as you want. So in this video, you see how you go into like bath one, and then I think you click into like, I don't know, the bathtubs category, and then from bathtubs you can have a different category, and then from there you can have a size, and then from there you can have like a style, and then from there you can have a color, and then you add your line item and you go down. So this basically like dummy proofs the price guide part, because you can have thousands of line items in your price guide and have your sales rep very easily navigate through that price guide to find the exact SKU that they need to add, drop it down into the bottom, select their quantity, and go ahead and proceed through it the way that they were. So now you have 3 different ways that you can add items into Leap as far as viewing them or adding them to the estimate. One is just our classic, we call it just a standard measure sheet view, and which basically just like a list view, just list them all down one after the other. You have a standard drill down sheet, which is basically a category and one subcategory. And now we are introducing the deep drill down, where you can have as many basically subcategories as you want.
Awesome. And you guys, if we were to sum all this stuff up, the price guide is really the core of how you're getting your accounts customized for your sales process. The biggest thing about all of this is not only ease getting the data in the system, but to Steve's point, by introducing that third deep drill down option, there's really not an item that exists that can't be sold using Leap. Given the number of customers that we have under our wing now, as a fairly tenured organization now, I mean, we've been around for a couple of years. With that said, I mean, we've got well north of 700 companies on Leap and ProSell combined. So when you look at all of these things, there's pretty much every single job you can think of represented within our suite. So use your imagination if it's something that you want to look at. Again, coming from more of that technology world and operations, etc. What Steve has done, especially with that deep drill down menu, is he's made it so that you have very easy, concise processes that are easily replicable. So if you're looking to scale your business, not only can you get the data in and get Leap up and running much faster than you could in the past, you can also create these processes by which you can train your sales reps to go out and sell your products that much better. So again, lots of really cool changes to this. The new UX is amazing. It allows people to navigate it that much easier, way more filter options. The copy paste is a game changer. And just, again, without the ways to sell, you were limited to what you could do. So at this point, it's totally uncorked and ready to rock. So now we're going to move on to the next section, which, again, in this, when we start looking at the importance of your business, contracts are paramount. If you're not structuring these in a way that they're easily changeable, etc., if you expand into a new market, great, you got to create a brand new contract. If you update your terms and conditions, you got to be able to update that stuff quickly. So Kaynat's going to walk you through all the changes that we made to this section specifically, because in all reality, one of the things that we heard consistently was this was one of the most difficult things within Leap to manage yourself. So without the help of Kaynat or one of the members of her team, it was pretty tough to navigate by your, on your own. So Kaynat's going to walk you through exactly what these are. I'm going to shut up, Kaynat. All yours.
Thank you, James. Again, just like how James has mentioned, if you have been using the old contract builder, you are now going to love our new contract site. It is life-changing. So let me talk a little bit about the old contract builder so you guys understand, for those who are new to this webinar. Anytime you had to make a contract change to your document, you had to go into each one of those components that you can see in the picture. Within those components, we had other cells, and you were making all of these edits without having a visual of exactly how that document was going to look like. In order to see those visuals, you had to log into the iPad to see exactly what the document will look like. So it was a lot of clicking into stuff, and even going through and making a simple change to your contract was clicking into one cell after another section, after another one, and then hitting save multiple times and then testing it out on the iPad. So it was really time consuming, and for those getting into the system like this very first time, it was really difficult to navigate and kind of really even understand how the contracts work, and doing it blindly without seeing a visual of it was really difficult. So with our new contract, it's completely changed all of that. Now, as you can see in this contract editor, and I'm going to talk about this really briefly before I hand it over to Steve, you get all-in-one view of your contract document, which allows you to see a view of your iPad, of what the sales rep's going to see, and the contract PDF view. This also allows you to make quick contract edits all on one screen. So go ahead and, Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you to talk a little bit more in detail about this contract editor.
Yep. So this is one of my favorite parts of the entire website, and this is a thing like early on when we first started Leap. I was like, man, it would be amazing if we like I would think about this type of editor, but taking it on to build it was a whole nother animal. So this obviously took the most time because it's so complex, and one of the biggest features of Leap that brings the most value is the contract engine or the PDF engine. But one of the limitations that we had is, like Kaynat was saying, there was really no way to build these forms and see what they look like from the admin point of view. You had to always kind of build it. You're going in blind, and then when you would go to the iPad, you'd have to fill it all out. You'd have to mark all your other fields not required, so you didn't have to fill in every single field every single time. Then you have to hit that next button to get the app to generate the actual document. So we had taken the logic from the actual application itself and built that logic into our editor. So now the contract templates or PDF templates that you're building on the Leap dashboard will render the same way that the iPad is going to render them. And then we added drag and drop functionality. So if you wanted to add a new line item to your template, you literally just drag it from the right-hand side onto the PDF document, and it will put it in line. You can double click that text and edit it right in line. You can change all your settings and your colors with the little toolbars at the top. And this is a thing, we've been bringing in new employees and training them on this. And this is something, our training period for contract building has been cut by 10 times, because before, again, you were going through building all these documents and they really had no clue how it was working. And after the 100th time of them building a document, things finally start to click, because you have to kind of tie those pieces together in your brain. Well, now Leap is going to tie all those things together for you in a nice visual format. And it doesn't show it in this video, but you can play with it on the actual website. You can also see the iPad view. So you can see what the sales rep will see when they're filling out the document, as well as what the customer will see when the PDF is generated, and you can edit them simultaneously. So if you, in this video, you see at the top where it says app, PDF, and both. If you click on the app view, you can edit all the fields, as if you're changing it for, the sales rep's point of view, and any changes you make in there will also update the PDF view. So you can, click and drag and drop and change either side of the application. So it just makes editing these things very easy, and we plan on building on top of this to make editing forms and building, different custom documents, much easier. We also added functionality. There's the app view. We also added functionality to make linking things from the estimate to the contract a lot easier. So if you if you remember before, we have these placeholders. If you ever got into linking things from the estimate to the contract, they have all these little placeholder fields or merge fields that you have to bring over from the estimate to the contract. And now we have added a way that you can just click on a cell, link it to an item in the price guide, and then all of the placeholders that you can use for that specific item will just populate, and you can click on them and paste them wherever you want in your titles or your values. You can change the font sizes and the colors and all of that. So we're really excited about this contract engine. One of the beautiful things about this is we made it backwards compatible. So any templates that you have already created on the old site will now work on the new site. So you can go in and edit any of your old forms, and they will show up in this new render engine that we have built, both on the iPad side and on the PDF side. And you can edit those and manipulate them, and it will update your existing templates. So that was something that we wanted to make sure worked. That it was backwards compatible, so any old documents or any ones created new moving forward will work with that. So we're really excited to bring this, to launch this out. Should make everybody's life on here a lot easier.
Cool, thanks, Steve. So summing this up, you guys, what we did with the contracts, as you're going to see this repeated throughout the entire presentation today, there's a new user experience brought to all of this. It's got to be that much more intuitive for you to use. Otherwise, it's really difficult for either yourself or any one of your employees to figure out. If they can't figure it out, they get frustrated, slippery slope, you know where that goes from there. So the neat thing is we've tried to make it easier for everybody to use. There's drag and drops. The previews are amazing. You don't have to go from the computer to the iPad, from the computer to the iPad. You can do it all in one screen. And then more importantly, this was the most technical and complicated thing for customers to get, was the linking to different things in either the estimate or even in the results sections. So again, when you start looking at what Steve has created and what we figured out, it's been really an amalgamation or just a collection of all of your feedback to say, hey, this is a pain in the butt, or hey, I don't understand this, or hey, is there a better way to do this, or here's an idea. It's all of those things combined, plus our own internal team's pain points, has really just created the monster that is the new contract engine. It's phenomenal. Again, I'm not as technical as Kaynat or Steve, but I was able to go in and figure this thing out within a matter of about 30 seconds. So it's very cool. I was the one who made that video, and I was able to do that on my couch. It's that simple. So really excited to see what this is going to do. It's going to save a ton of time as well because it's backwards compatible, and you aren't going to have to recreate everything from scratch. So again, we're really pumped on this. If you haven't already tried to use it, again, this is going to be one of those things that you're going to get sucked into, because the amount of changes that you can make and the way that you can customize your contracts, frankly, every single one of you should take a look at your existing contracts with a certain design eye and say, is there a better way for me to do it to really impress that person even after I've sold the deal? So contracts in the bag. It's exciting. It's one of the coolest things that I've seen within the app for a very long time. But we're going to keep chucking along. We're going to start talking a little bit now about account settings. So Steve's going to take this one because obviously a lot of these are little, I would say these are more of a collection of one-off features as a result of pain points that you've experienced along the way. So Steve's going to walk you through all of the different changes that we made to the account setting. First thing we're going to start off with is price formula. So Steve, I'm going to pass it over to you. We'll get this thing taken care of.
Yep. So price formulas were a thing where, I personally have sat on a lot of calls with people explaining how these price formulas work. I know Kaynat has done that countless times. And, we go through our support tickets and our feature requests, and we just look, okay, where can we make improvements in our application? We're doing it constantly. And one of the ones that kept coming up was price formula. So what we did is created a test suite. And inside of the application, there are different values that the application generates, such as, obviously the estimate or the total of all the line items added up together, any custom line items sales reps types in. If you use financing, different values for the financing plans. These are all values that change based on what the sales rep selects. So we have created a test suite that you can go in and basically mimic those values as if the sales rep would select them inside of the application. And as you're building your price formulas, the admin dashboard is going to do the math for you to show you if those values were selected inside of the application. This is what the app is going to calculate as its value. So it should make creating your price formulas a lot easier, because previously what you would have to do is build a formula on the website, hit save, sync your settings on the iPad, and then go in, build an estimate, and then see if the math calculated. Then you might have to jump back to the price guide to make sure to see if the math is adding up correctly. But now you can do it all without having to touch the iPad from this site. So we basically designed this that if you can use Microsoft Excel and you can build a formula in Excel, this works the exact same way. The only difference is all those different color squares that you see at the bottom in that test suite, those basically just represent cells, and your formula will represent the values in those cells. So that's the test suite. The next one was the mandatory fields. Another request we got was when you're sending out templates, like some people, like you have the contract section, which obviously, the contracts will go to a customer. Then you have proposal section, which it comes default in the app. You also have the ability to, create your own custom section. So in the screenshot, see how there's like a survey section and a work order section. And we had a bunch of requests kept coming in where these fields or these sections don't go to the customer. Yet once you got to the end, or before you could even get into that section, it always asks for an email for the customer. So it created kind of the false pretense that a sales rep, when they click that send button, the email would go to the customer, even though the settings are set up to only go to the home office. So we have built logic in the application now on the back end where you can turn off all these alerts. So if you don't want your proposal section or your survey section or any other section for that matter to require the sales rep to enter in a email address, or if you don't want them to be required to enter any phone number for whatever reason, maybe you have a form that really doesn't even require a customer's name to go on it, you can turn those alerts off. You can also, at the very end, when a sales rep hits that send button, there's an alert that pops up to confirm the customer's email address one more time. You can also turn that verify email alert off, and that was another one that they would, put in an email, put in a phone number, but at the end they would hit send, and it would show the verified email alert. And even though it wasn't actually going to the customer, that alert was showing, and it was creating, a false positive that it was indeed going to go to the customer. So now you can turn all those switches off. You just go to your app settings, contract sending section of the admin dashboard, and you just flip those switches however you see fit, and then those alerts will go away. So the next one is links. Links for sharing large files. This one is actually a really big one because we have gotten error logging I have seen, and also we have gotten some support tickets to come through where the file size limit on emails is too big. So your sales rep generates a contract, has a bunch of pictures on it, maybe he attaches a couple more PDFs to it. It's a 50, 60 page document. We've seen them come through, and it's just too big to send via email. So you send it, and then 5 minutes later or whatever, you get an email saying that, hey, it was bounced because the file attachment size is too big. Well, you can now send your contracts or your documents as links that the customer can click on, and you can have these file sizes, I believe, up to like 100 megabytes in size. And if you have a contract that's bigger than that, well, that's just too big. I mean, that's a novel. So you shouldn't exceed the file size limitation on this. You can just all you have to do is turn on a little switch. James, next slide. So there's a little switch in the contract sending section. Yep. And all you have to do is same place that you set up all your email settings. You just turn on that little switch, and anytime your sales rep sends a contract, James, go back to the previous slide real quick. Once you turn that switch on, there will be a little link where the red arrow is pointing at the bottom of your email body. That's all you have to do is turn that switch on, and the link will show up just like you see it now at the bottom of your email template. If you wanted to customize where that link is, like you wanted to put in some custom HTML and have the link appear in a certain spot, or change the button or the text, etc., it's way more advanced than what this webinar is, but we will have documentation on that because there's also a placeholder that you can use. And instead of the big blue link showing up at the bottom of your email template, you will instead have it show up however you wish, and the big blue link will go away. So it makes it much easier. And what happens when a customer clicks on that, it will just open up a new tab in their browser and take them right exactly to their contract PDF that they can just download straight from our site. If you're familiar with our admin dashboard where the attachment section ends, it's basically the same link. They could click on that, and it will take them to the same document. Next one, James. So then this one was a couple feature requests we've got was to be able to send resources to customers. So inside of the resources section of the application, you have a bunch of different PDF documents, maybe some manufacturer's brochures, but you also might have some documents in there that you don't necessarily want to send to customers, such as your company story or history or pitch book, etc. So we have built a way that you can click a button and have all of these documents auto-populate to the iPad as an email link. Now the app will just go through and look at anything that's a file, and it will just basically take everything that you have in your resources section, whether it's 10 resources, 100 resources, it doesn't matter, and then it will create email links for your reps to attach as part of the contract. It's very easy to do this. Go to the next slide. It's very easy to do this. You go to your app settings and email links, and there will be a green button that just says copy from resources. And any resources that you have in there, when you click that button, you will have auto-generated. It will all be in one category, I believe, called resources, and it will just generate one for each one. Now, if you have any documents that you don't want your reps to be able to send, you would have to go in there and delete the ones that you don't want. It's an all or nothing type of deal. So you get all of the resources, and then you just click off the ones that you don't want. So it should be a huge time saver to be able to take all of your manufacturer's brochures that you have loaded in your resources section and now turn those into shareable links that you can attach as part of your contract documents, proposal documents, etc., that you're sending off to the customers. Speaking of resources, we also added the functionality to drag and drop your resources. If you're familiar with the old site, you know how the naming convention has forward slashes, and some people get them confused with backslashes, and then, oh, by the way, if you mess up the name, they could just disappear altogether, and you have to change it back to get them to show up again. Well, we've added drag and drop functionality to the resources section. So if you have folders in your resources, you can drag and drop one to another, and just over top of the folder, and it will drop it in that folder for you, and you can also just reorder them to whichever order you want them to appear for your sales reps. And as you can see in the video, the first one drops a resource into a folder, and then the second one, we're moving the YouTube channel resource over, and I believe into the last position. And then once you get your order to the way that you want it, you just click that Save Order button, and then when your rep refreshes the iPad, all of the resources will show up based on how you put it together. So that is all of the updates on, I mean, there's a bunch of little other things there that you'll see that go through, but those are the ones worth mentioning on this webinar. Should definitely make everybody's life a lot easier when configuring all this stuff, editing and updating it, etc. And yeah, that's it.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. So again, you guys, summing up what Steve just mentioned is there's a price formula test suite, which the beauty of this is, again, you can test what is going to go into the app prior to it going into the app. It's just a way to save you a tremendous amount of time of bouncing back and forth between the two. You have a lot more flexibility on what fields you want as mandatory and not. There's a big debate on whether you lock it down for your reps or whether you open it up and keep the options and the avenues open for them to execute while in the field and in the home. The other thing that's huge is the ability to share these larger files with customers, whether those be resources or whether those be your completed contracts. The thing to note with this, and the thing you should all be asking yourself is my sales process improving the life of everybody downstream? And that includes both your production and install teams, as well as the marketing teams down the line. I have a soft spot in my heart for marketing, since that's 50% of my title. But how are you getting the data back in the hands of those folks? Are you getting photos to your teams on the install side of the world? Like, is it that much smoother for them to go through these processes? If it is, we tend to find that it's going to equate to better reviews, more referrals, things like that. All of that playing back into the marketing world. So by all means, ask yourself the question, am I utilizing this? And if you're not, now you can. You have the ability to pump those things full of as many notes and photos and all sorts of other cool stuff as you possibly can. The conversion over to the resources section as well. That resource section that we viewed on that last page, so I'll go back one sec. I actually organized this personally. These are all folders, and within these, you actually have individual brochures broken out by job type, by company, by by product line, etc. So the thing you need to also ask yourselves is, how easy is it for a new rep in the field to get to that item they need? And if it takes them more than 3 to 5 clicks, you're not doing it right, because obviously that's going to start taking away from the momentum with that homeowner. So use the functionality that we've allowed you to, or that we've built into this, and really create an environment for your reps that allows them to succeed in the field as best as possible. There's a really cool statistic that says 53% of your sales come from good leads. Those were deals that someone would really have to do something stupid to screw up, but 47% of that is all attributed back to your sales teams. So ask yourself, are you giving that 47% of your deals the most amount of success possible by building this out in a way that's cohesive to use in the field? So ask yourself that question. The cool thing is, Steve and the teams have built in the functionality to allow you to do that. So there's a lot of really cool stuff that comes from this. Excited for you guys to dive in and start using it in your own environments. The next thing we're going to discuss too is we're going to start talking a little bit more about account management. So Kaynat's going to jump back in on this one. She's going to start talking to you a little bit about what we've done to update this section as well.
Perfect. Thank you, James. So we have improved our account management section. Again, this is also one of those features that we've been getting constant requests from customers, an ability to view billing history just for your personal records. So a way to see your monthly records, edit your credit card, your payment method. So in here, you can now do this yourself without giving us a call or chatting in. You can just go in there at any time and update your payment history. You can also update your payment method, your payment contact information as well. So if there's someone else we should be reaching out to, you can update all of that information in the account information section. Also in this view, we allow you to see your DocuSign history. So you can see a record of all of the DocuSigns that are sent from your account. You can see exactly who sent them, the days they were sent, and you can also see the attachments of exactly what those documents were that were sent through DocuSign. We have this amazing feature here. You can see the little arrow at the bottom under status. You can see the tracking history of those DocuSigns as well to see if they went through or exactly what the progress is with those DocuSigns. So this account management section, again, huge for you and your personal records. It's been highly requested from a lot of our customers to view and update account information and also your DocuSign information as well. The next feature we have here is enhanced permissions management. Again, this is also one of those additional features that we have received a request of. So now in the permissions section, you have the ability to clone a permission group. So by default, you get a sales rep permission group, which has your default permissions for a sales rep. And then you have your permissions for super users who have access to everything into your account. You can now come in here and clone a permission group and modify that permission group and restrict it for someone who needs maybe additional restrictions, or maybe you want to give a certain group of sales rep additional access. So this section allows you to clone as many times and modify those permission groups for anyone in your company or even multiple people as well. All right, and then this section here, attachments for custom fields. So one of the features that we talked about earlier is you do have in Leap the ability to create custom documents. So you can create a section for surveys, for change orders, for production, anything along those lines. You can create a section for that in Leap. Before, we did not have the ability to view those documents in the attachment section. You could only view contracts and you could only view proposals. So now we give you that ability and we allow you to see a record of exactly all of those custom documents. You can see results, you can see reports, you can see surveys, any documents that were sent from any of those custom sections that were created. You can now view all of them under the attachment section of your Leap portal account.
Awesome. Thank you, Kaynat. So you guys, summing it up, I'm actually going to jump back to that initial slide. For account management, especially when it comes to this DocuSign integration that we've created, one of the neatest things in here is you can go back in. If one of the reps is like, hey, I sent that DocuSign, what's the status of it? Clicking on that little, where the little arrow is at the bottom of the screen here, clicking on that little clock dial will show you exactly what the status of that app is. Did they open it? Are they signed? Are they not signed, etc. It's a really neat way for you to start managing each and every one of those little accounts. Plus, on top of this, we all know that because of the DocuSign integration, you also have to recognize that there is somewhat of a cost incurred when sending these things. You want to be able to also recognize who's sending them within your organization. That created by section is going to allow you to see what that pattern looks like. So if there's one particular rep that's leaning a little too heavy on DocuSign, you're going to know exactly who it is and be able to course correct very early on. As we go back and we summarize everything, the billing info is really neat. We get a ton of requests from people saying, hey, that person's no longer with the company. Can you send all the billing info to this person now? Sure, no worries. You can control that yourself now. If you need to see past invoices, you can easily see that stuff in there. I know we're going to be addressing most of the questions at the end. There was one in there that said, how do I see past ones? If it's, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, is there a cutoff on time that's going to be displayed within that? Is it the last 3 months?
I have to check. I think it's the last three transactions or 3 months. I'd have to check for sure. Eventually, we will add the feature to allow you to just click through and view all of them, but I believe it is the most recent one.
Yeah. So if you guys do need any invoices that are beyond 3 months, feel free to reach out to us directly. We're always happy to help you out with that stuff. That's no skin off our back whatsoever. The neat thing with the enhanced permissions too, if you're adding different offices, you have new staff within the organization, you start creating new positions as you start developing Leap into a more complex animal to run more and more components within your organization. It's easy for you to add and update those different statuses and permissions just by cloning and tweaking rather than having to go create everything from scratch. So there's a lot of really, really cool things that you can do within there. So let's move on. The last thing we want to do, and this is honestly one of the most exciting pieces that we've started to create. Obviously, I've said that about every section, but this one's honestly near and dear to both Steve and my heart. We're big on the idea that education is paramount when using any sort of technology. So if you know all the different parameters of what the app can do, you guys are all incredibly talented operators. It's easy for you to then take those parameters and say, oh, I see, if I do this, this, and this, I can now allow my reps to go out into the field and do this. So we want to unlock a lot of that visionary mindset by allowing you to see how to do any and every one of these. We also know that as you start coming onto onboarding, some of you who are a little bit more tech savvy can go back in and can follow simple instructions. So I'm going to pass it over to Steve without alluding too much to what this is. I'm going to pass it over to him because this is one of his passion projects. So this is something Steve literally got goosebumps when we started looking into the betas of this build. So Steve, pass it over to you. Take it away.
Yep. So this is, first thing is on our admin dashboard, we have a link that says documentation. When you click on that link, it takes you to the part of our website, which first time I've seen it actually. So, obviously building this whole entire admin dashboard, we needed to document it, and documentation has been a challenge for us the last 2.5 years because we have been just changing so much. So we would document one thing, and then all of a sudden, hey, well, we're updating that. We got to redo it, and it was kind of, it just snowballed. It's like chasing our tail, really. So with this new site, we put a really big initiative on, okay, as we're building this thing, we need to make sure it's well documented. Let's put some videos on here. Let's put some self-help guides and tutorials and make it so that, we basically empower our customers to be able to control this, this application all on their own. So one of the things that we've done, James, you go to the next slide. One of the things that we have done is we created a nice little home page. We'll have all of our release notes. Anytime we make changes to the dashboard or to the app, we'll have detailed release notes front and center. You can click on those and view all of the changes, and then we'll point to the documentation of where it changed, any updates or upgrades. So you just keep coming back to this to see what has changed with Leap. And again, both from the dashboard side, the admin part, and from the iOS or the app part from the sales rep point of view. We created little how-to guides that you can click into if you just want to know how to do certain things. One of the biggest things that we have done, next slide, James, is the search functionality. So up at the top, we have a little search bar. If you want to know how to do the Eagle View integration, you just type in Eagle View. You want to know how to set up Market Sharp, you just type in Market Sharp. You want to know how to do DocuSign, type in DocuSign, all the way down the line, whatever things you want to do. We're constantly adding to this repository to make, to make this thing better, to make it more knowledgeable. And as we get requests in from customers like, hey, how do I do this, or how do I change that? We create little articles that show you how to do it. So we have all the basics of everything that you need to know, from your app settings to your price guide, even building your contracts and the brand new interface that we just introduced earlier on. You will have complete documentation with training videos on how to do all of that. Next slide, James. I think this one is going to show the embedded videos. Yeah. So there's just, you can see like this is an example of one. See on the left-hand side, there'll be navigation of all the different topics that you can click into. And then we will have embedded videos into this, so you don't have to bounce back and forth between YouTube or any of that. It's just going to be embedded right in the site. You'll have a table of contents on entire articles, so you can just really click through to exactly the section that you want to see. And with the new contract builder, there's so many different things that you can do. I highly encourage you to go through all the training materials, because there are things, I'm the one who initially built this thing, and I am still amazed at some of the things that people come up with. Matter of fact, we have one of our new hires, we always have a challenge to just come up with something new, or build something that hasn't been done before. And one of the coolest things that somebody has built in the contract builder is a rock, paper, scissors game. And that is just one of the ones where I had to ask, how did you do it? Where you basically go in to fill in your document, and based on which selections you make of rock, paper, or scissors, when you hit next, it would randomly pick, the app would pick a different rock, paper, scissors, tell you if you won or lost. So there's so many different things. Obviously, it doesn't make sense in the real world, but there's so many different ins and outs to this application, specifically the form builder, the PDF builder, contract builder, whatever you want to call it. I highly encourage you to go in and learn how to make all of those changes. This documentation is going to help you do that, and then you can really unlock the potential of what Leap can do, not just for the sales side, but we have companies who are basically, we call them power users, that use it obviously for their sales side, but they're also using it for production, measure text going out and ordering, basically creating materials lists or order forms. And instead of creating contracts, they have like materials lists and order forms, and then they pull in the sales rep's estimate, and that's what is used to populate the order forms, and then that's pushing back into their CRMs, and then that goes to a rehash manager or whatever. You have another one where rehash reps are using Leap in a different way, and they have all their rehash forms on it. You have production using it with change orders. You really can have this thing affect every part of your business, and you're not going to learn how to do that unless you go through the documentation and just learn all the little ins and outs. And any questions that pop up, like, hey, what is this? How do I change that? Hit that little chat bubble in the bottom right corner of our website. We're here 8 to 5 Eastern time, and we'll answer any questions that you have, and any feature requests that you have, definitely give them to us, because that's how this whole entire webinar came to be anyway, is just feature requests and feedback from our existing customers that are using it, and we're just trying to make the thing better and better every day. Next slide, James. I'd mentioned a little bit like the how-to guide. So we've made very detailed documentation that you should be able to just follow these things, bullet point by bullet point, and have it set up. And this example that you see here is basically the MarketSharp integration. If you're a MarketSharp user, we could literally just send you this link, and if you know absolutely nothing about how to set up Leap, you should be able to set up the MarketSharp integration from start to finish, and we will have basically, hey, this is the end result of what it should be when the thing is done. This is what it should do. So it should just make everybody's life easier with setting this up. If you have a new hire and you want to train them to be, in a Leap admin, you should be able to just direct them to this documentation, and everything they need from start to finish is going to be in here. If you have any questions, you just type them in the little search box, and it should take you to an article. And if that article isn't there, ping us, and then we put all these little requests in, and we keep adding to this. All the time, week after week, we're going to be adding articles to this. And then the last one I just wanted to point out is just the release notes history. This is just an example of one. If you remember in the beginning, the first slide on this, I talked about the release notes. This is going to give you an exact breakdown of everything that changes. Leap is constantly changing, and again, I was like chasing our tail with trying to get all the documentation out. This is a platform that we're moving forward with to be able to keep in constant communication. Both we'll send you an email to let you know, hey, here's what changed, and then you will have links that point to this release notes, so that you can go through and say, hey, here's all the changes, here's the documentation that goes along with it, and if you have any specific questions, reach out to us via the little chat bubble.
Awesome, Steve. Thank you so much for walking us through that. So like we said, you guys, there's a lot of pros to what we just built out. Really appreciate all the warm fuzzies that you guys are throwing in the question section, just the pats on the back, and just the recognition of how much has gone into this. So again, building this documentation section, I would say, has been as big or bigger of an undertaking than the technical side of building the back end all over again. So there's so much depth to this app. Every single little piece of that has to be documented with clear, concise steps on how it applies and how it is used in the real world. So really excited to have this just significantly enhanced compared to what it has been in the past. The videos, all the different modalities, and then really just boiling it down to step 1, step 2, step 3. So there's a lot of very cool stuff in here. I urge you guys, if you find yourself getting stuck, or if you have any questions from your employees, etc., or if you yourself just want to learn a little bit more how to use the app itself, dive into these and start poking around in these tutorials. It's going to help you a ton. The other nice thing about all of this is you do have the search functionalities to help you if you're not familiar with what it is. Throw some keywords in there. It's got very similar search algorithm to help you figure out where you need to be and what you need to do. So a lot of very cool stuff, and that's just going to continue to get stronger and stronger and stronger. This is 2.0. The next iterations for us, imagine where 3.0, 4.0, 5.0 are going to be. It's pretty amazing. So on that note, let's talk a little bit about next steps. All right. So I'm going to jump in and own this one. So big thing for everybody to note. Today is the 25th. This thing goes live officially for everybody starting tomorrow. Don't worry. If you're familiar with the old system and you really love dancing with an old pile of bones, which it's not an old pile of bones, but compared to the new one, it is. The reality is, sorry, Steve, your baby is not ugly.
Right.
But the reality is, you guys, there's so much stuff that can be done on the new system, but we're still going to maintain the old one for the time being. Know that eventually will change. I promise you, if you get in and use the new system, you're going to forget that the old one ever existed, simply because the new one has so much functionality to make your life easier. If you really enjoy being complicated and doing things the hard way, feel free to stay in the old one, but by all means, like I said, the functionality is there to make your life that much better. That's going to go live tomorrow. If you guys want to get into it, feel free to log in. It's all going to be flipped over tomorrow, and you'll be able to do whatever you need to do on the back end. Additional support, as Steve mentioned, there's a lot of different ways that you can theoretically reach out to us. Hours of operation for the support staff, 8:30 to 5 Eastern time. For those of you on the Pacific Coast, by all means, just chat in whenever you can. I'm Southern California born and raised, so I totally understand that probably not going to get up at 5:30 a.m. to call us. That's fine. Feel free when you can, jump in. Kaynat and the rest of the support staff are amazing. They're always quick to get on this. Chat is the fastest way to get a hold of somebody. If you need to schedule time with your customer success rep, do that. You can always reach out directly to them as well if you're in the process of building. Or if you don't know who that person is, feel free to just reach out to support@leaptodigital.com. Our phone number's there as well. That's just the main number that's listed on our site. If you listen to the phone tree, which a lot of people don't, it's option 3. So feel free to dial 844-370-LEAP. Option 3 will take you to the customer success teams. If they can't help you right then and there, they'll go ahead, leave a message, and they'll get back to you as absolutely fast as possible. They're usually on it. It's going to go to somebody live more often than not. So those are the ways to get a hold of us. Like I said, chat's always the fastest vessel. Usually it's something very small that needs to be tweaked. So want to open it up now to the questions. I know Michelle had been putting together a list of some of these as we go through. So Steve, feel free, Kaynat, same thing. Jump in when you want to, and or when you can, and we'll start knocking these things off the list. So first question that we have is from Craig. Can we import/export upcharges from Excel?
You can't, no. So that's the whole functionality that we did in the price guide section. The same functionality of Excel has been brought over to the admin dashboard. So now you can basically just copy and paste your upcharges from the admin dashboard. So the short answer is no, you cannot do upcharges in Excel, but you can manage your upcharges much, much easier in the new price guide section of the dashboard.
Cool, thanks, Steve. Second question, in a current price guide, when I add a new item, I literally have to go to every document I created and manually click on the measure sheet items. Has this been made a little bit easier?
Yes. So now, so before when you, I think he's referring to linking measure sheet items. So when he adds a new measure sheet item to the price guide and he wants to link that, sounds like he has multiple templates or contract documents that he needs to link that item to. But when you link an item on the old site, you have to like click through like 5-6 clicks to get down to the individual cell that you want to link it to. But on the new dashboard, you have everything visible at once. So you just click on the cell that you want, click the link measure sheet item button, and then select the measure sheet item that you want to link it to and hit save. If you have multiple cells you need to link it to, you just click on each cell and click link. It's very simple to do it from the new site.
Yes, and
Cool.
just to quickly add
again,
on
if anyone
to
needs help,
just to quickly add on to that, you also have the ability to copy. So once you do the linking, you can copy easily from one document to another, so you don't have to do it multiple times.
Right. Right, and you can copy them from template to template. So like if you had a cell or a section in one template and you wanted to move it to, or like clone it to another template, you can just right click on it, copy, back out of that template, go into a new one, paste it, save it. And what's also cool is you can like edit one template and then you're like, oh crap, I want to look at something else on a different one. But you know, usually your changes will get lost. But now you can back out of that template without saving it, go into a different one, make changes in that one. And then when you come back to the original, those changes will still be there. So it doesn't, you know, like it doesn't reset everything if you don't save it. And that, make sure you know too, if you don't save it, then of course it don't save it.
Cool. Thank you guys. Let's keep this one rocking. We got a lot of them.
Yeah,
thank you for answering that one, Steve.
Going off like crazy.
Oh yeah, it's going crazy. I like it. These are the fun ones. These are the fun webinars when this happens. So the next one that comes in, and I can take this one. You guys, are you guys working on an integration with Synchrony? There was a couple questions thrown in there about various integrations. One of the things that you'll note is that I did have that in the resources section. If we're not currently integrated with a certain lender or an outside site or something like that, you guys can always drop that link directly into the resources section so that if your reps need to access, say, an application page or something like that in the field, if they have connectivity, they can simply click the link. It'll take them to that web page. They can fill out whatever they need to, apply for whatever they want. The second they hit done, it'll pull them right back into the application. So instead of having to leave Leap and go to a web browser, Steve's made it so that you can link directly out of the resources section. The second part of this question is my shameless plug for partnerships, is if you guys have somebody, whether it's a manufacturer or a lender or a CRM or literally any component that you use within your organization, you know, things like, you know, a measuring tool or something like that. If there is an app that you want used that you feel is a core part of your product, feel free to scream at them and tell them that you want them to integrate with Leap and that they need to get in touch with me. My email is jwaite, W-A-I-T-E, @leaptodigital.com. I'm always happy to bring up those partnership conversations. We've done it with a number of people. And the cool thing is the way Steve has built Leap, we have an open API. So there are really very few organizations that we can't partner with. Usually the limitation is on their side. So by all means, if you have somebody that you want us to partner with or you want them to make their data easily digestible by Leap, yell at them and tell them that you demand it. Feel free to point them in my direction and we'll take care of the rest. So let's keep rocking through this. The next one that we have is the man, the myth, the legend, Chad Castrilli. The items in the resources section still need to be uploaded in landscape format in order to display on the iPad correctly. Steve.
So if the PDF is in landscape, so if you have whatever orientation that it is, so if you have a PDF that is saved as landscape, then you can just upload it and it will work. You will have to turn the iPad in landscape and it will work. If it's in portrait, then you have to keep the iPad in portrait in order for it to work. You cannot have a PDF that when you open on your computer, if it shows up as in portrait view, but it's actually supposed to be landscape, well, the iPad is going to think that it's supposed to be portrait, and that's the way it's going to display it. So the answer is however it is right now, that's the way it is. Nothing has changed from that.
Yep, and Chad, you also asked the question, would it be feasible to include the hover report as part of the contract if we're using the links instead of the attachments? The answer to that is hell yes. And the reason being is the more detail that you guys can put in your contracts, the more production will love you. The reality is you're going to make their life that much easier. They know what reports you're going off of. The measure techs can access that same information as well. It just makes everybody's life that much easier. So when in doubt, put it in there. Simply because
and that will work with EagleViewer too.
More clear. So, exactly.
So just to iterate what he's talking about is in the contract section, if you use the EagleViewer Hover integration, you can have the actual PDF measurement report be part of the contract template. Some people didn't like to do it because once you add the report, especially a Hover report, which has all the photos attached to it, it could make your file size too big to email. Well, now with the new functionality that you can send the attachment as a link, you really don't have to worry about that file size limitation anymore. So now you can send 30 and 40 and 50 megabyte files as contracts and not have to worry about them getting bounced back. And they'll send quicker, and the customer can download them on their phone a lot quicker. Like everything will just happen a lot faster because now you're just sending a link that the customer can click on instead of sending the actual document.
Cool. And then moving right along. So the next one is there ever going to be a search feature within the attachments area?
Yes. Right now there's a filter. Let me see. Hold on, let me look. Because what was there? Let's see, attachments. So right now you can filter by the office that it was created in, the date that it was created or updated. That was a new functionality that we added to this site too. It really wasn't highlighted in the webinar. But a lot of times, like let's say that your sales rep does an estimate, I don't know, 6 months ago, and then the customer finally says, okay, let's do it, and then your sales rep sends them a contract. Well, because the estimate was initially created 6 months ago on the old site, you'd have to dig back through those 6 months to find that template. Well, now you can filter by the created date or the updated date. So you can say, hey, give me all the documents that were just, updated recently, and then, it will show those as well. And you can also filter by the actual user who created them. So if you wanted to look at all of a specific sales rep's documents that were created, you can do that on the new site too. We will eventually add a searchable field that you can search by like customer name, first and last name. But on launch, that's not going to happen. But that's a feature request that came to a bunch. We will eventually add it. It's just not with the initial release.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. So there were 2 questions from Tom about DocuSign. Tom, I believe I can answer these ones. If not, I'm going to defer to Steve. One of them was, can you have a DocuSign signature including, can you have DocuSign signature include a date? And then the second one was, can you set a deadline on a DocuSign to expire? My understanding, because we use DocuSign internally as well, is that you can set a deadline on DocuSign to expire, but that's typically handled in your own DocuSign account. Is that correct, Steve?
Correct. It's not Leap doesn't do it automatically. You have to go in there and expire it.
Correct. Yeah. On DocuSign, I believe you can set that expiration, but again, when you look at the integration and the way it's structured, I would say that's more of a DocuSign setting than it is a Leap setting. Next question is billing history manually imported?
The answer to his date question, the answer is no.
Yes.
So his date,
okay.
Yeah. I don't know if you answered that part. I didn't hear it.
I totally forgot. Sorry, Steve.
Okay.
Squirrel.
So Tom, you cannot have the date. The date Leap will populate the date that it sends. And DocuSign, when they sign it, I believe DocuSign does put the date in underneath the little signature in small print. I might be wrong on that, but I know they put something in small print underneath of the signature. But the date is populated by Leap at the time that it's sent, not by DocuSign, like that little date field that shows up in the contract. Good. What's next?
Yep. All right. Next one is we will continue going. So this is for Ashley. It looks like you were using the staging site. For everybody moving forward, you're still going to be able to go to login.leaptodigital.com, and that's going to allow you to come into the new site. There will be a link on there that can allow you to go to the old site. That can be accessed through the through the documentation section. So when you do go to the homepage,
I think it's going to be I think it's going to be legacy.leaptodigital.com. But like you said,
okay.
Just going to login.leaptodigital, the site's just going to automatically change. All you have to do is refresh your browser. It should be ready to go tomorrow morning. We're going to launch it all tonight. And so you'll just keep going to login.leaptodigital.com and everything will just change. If you wanted to use the old site, I'm pretty sure we're going to make it legacy.leaptodigital.com. But that's just a temporary thing. We'll probably have it stood up for a couple months. I don't know, let's say 3 months, and then we're eventually going to phase that thing out, because as we're updating stuff, that site is not going to get updated. So if you're using that, it should be for very basic functionality, because all the new stuff that we plan on adding to the application is not going to be supported in the old site.
Yep. So it will exist. I know there was another question in there as well. Is that even going to exist? Yes, but keep in mind that's going to be phased out. So next one is there a learning module on customizing the work order that accompanies the result when submitted? We'd love to make it more similar to our current documentation if possible.
I'll take that one. So I think that they're talking about the result sheet that gets auto-generated, and they want to customize the result sheet. You cannot customize the result sheet. The layout and the fields that appear on it are as they are. However, you can create a custom section, just like contracts and proposals, and you can build a template that mimics the results section with even way more data than what the results section does. So you will still get the results report just like you get now, but your rep would just go in and click in the results page, and or he will have a different section that could be like, I don't know, measure sheet or order form or whatever it is, and they would click into that, and it would basically just auto-populate off of what was in the estimate, just like the results does. And then when you hit the send button on that, it will upload just like the results do. So you can get the same functionality. It would require the rep to have one extra step, but that would allow you to customize that. We also have a way, like if you're interested in us helping you build that out, we're rolling out a professional services program that can help you do that, where you just tell us basically what you want, and we can help you mimic that. I hope that answered this question.
Yep, cool. And just as a FYI, what Steve mentioned too, if you guys do have custom work that you'd like done by us, there is a cost incurred, but we're always happy to give you guys a pretty accurate estimate and a quote prior to doing the work for you. So if you have something that you've had a vision of building or just don't have the time to do that, feel free to reach out to us. We'll definitely give you an updated quote on what it would cost, give you a timeline to build it all out, scope the entire thing, and then at that point, if it was something you wanted to move forward with, cut us a check and we'll make your dream come true. So by all means, if that's something you're actively looking at, feel free to reach out to us at either info@leaptodigital.com or support@leaptodigital.com, and we'll get that thing rocking. The next one is any reduction in load time for refreshing large price books on the iPad. One thing I will say, and Steve, you can jump in on this one second. Let me just say one thing on this. As somebody who's done a tremendous amount of demos and run through this app a tremendous amount of times, one of the things that I found extremely helpful is prior to a rep going into the home, make sure that you go through the key sections on the iPad and have it download everything. So if you do have big price books or if you do have those, open up the various sections within the iPad while you have connectivity prior to going into a home, and it typically drastically reduces the load time because it's all updated in the cache of that iPad. So Steve, I don't know if there's something you want to add to that or if I hit the nail on the head.
Yep, no, that's it. It's I do know the newer iPads are faster. It's just in order for the app to work without an internet connection, it has to do a lot of downloading and processing and storing of all the data that it could possibly use, and that's what takes so long. We do have tickets for our dev team to try and speed that up a little bit with basically, the different algorithms and stuff to use. I'm not going to get too technical in this webinar how they would do it, but we have thrown around some ideas to try and make it a little bit faster. But it's one of those things that you should just have to refresh before you get to your lead. Even if it takes 5 minutes for it to refresh, you shouldn't have to do it again unless something changes. So as long as that rep's logged in, they can just go from appointment to appointment, and he doesn't have to keep refreshing on every single lead. As long as he's logged in, the app only needs to download all the information once.
Yep. And again, one of the things that we often just play back to is user error. So if somebody is going back in and hitting the refresh button when they don't have connectivity, it can obviously set them astray. So if somebody does get frustrated, the best thing they can do aside from flailing and hitting a bunch of buttons is just to understand exactly how it works. If they need those refreshers, make sure that they understand what it does when they're in offline mode, and that they're comfortable with that. So next question, there's two coming from Tim. Can estimates be saved and reopened later? The answer to that, yep, 100%.
Yes.
That is one of the core functions of Leap. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what you do, where you add a new customer, whether it's from the calendar view or from you type it in manually, there's a little magnifying glass on top of the iPad. So I'm talking about the app version. On the iPad, at the top of where you enter a new customer is a little magnifying glass. Click that magnifying glass, and it will take you to a list of all of the estimates that you've created. Depending on what the permissions are on that user, you can either see just your own, or you can see everyone's, and you can also limit it by office. So you can only see estimates within one office or estimates in all offices. And you can also set a user to only see estimates for a certain amount of time. So if you wanted a user to only be able to view their estimates for a period of 30 days, well, you can set permissions up on their user settings so that they can only see them for 30 days or 1 day or 3 days, however long you wanted to do it. If you have questions on how to set that up, contact our support team via the little chat window or an email or whatever, and it will show you where that is. Or visit our new documentation. Just type it in a little search box, and we should have an article on that.
And Steve, Tim actually just chimed in as well and asked, what about contracts?
What about contracts?
Can you see signed contracts from? You can see that in the admin page.
I mean, you see that on the admin dashboard, yeah.
Yeah, so when you go to login.leaptodigital.com, in that section that says attachments, to Steve's point earlier, you can search based on the date that was created, or the customer, or excuse me, not the customer, the rep who created it, and you should be able to go back in and you should be able to see what contracts were done by anyone since using Leap. So the admin dashboard will allow you to see any of those.
Yeah, so that's for completed contracts. If you're looking for the functionality to view a contract before the customer had signed it, like the sales rep sitting in the house and you want to review the document in real time as the sales rep is creating it, you can have your rep create the document, and up at the top where they hit the sign button, and as they're signed, they hit send. Well, right next to that, there's a review button. And if they click the review button, they can type in an email address and send that contract in its current format to whichever email it wants. So it's really good. Like you have a new rep out in the field, he writes up a document and you want to review it before the customer signs it, make sure it's all good. You can have him click that review button, type in your email address, you'll get the contract, send him a quick text, letting him know everything's okay, and then he can proceed with the customer signing it. Once they send it, then it will appear signed in the attachment section like Jane was alluding to.
Got it. And then the other thing that he had asked on his was, is there a way in the contract sections to have a unique ID generated in one of the fields?
You can have a random number generated, but it's not guaranteed to be unique. So you can have like a random up to 9-digit number generated on a document, but it won't be unique. So you could theoretically, I mean, it would be very hard, but you could theoretically have two documents have the same number.
I was going to say, if you run into that same number, you should probably buy lottery tickets. So
yeah, play that in a lottery.
Exactly. Nice. The next one is somebody asked, can we please repeat the email address to obtain the open API? So if you have a specific question about your API, bring in your customer success rep, because some of these things do involve a little bit of hand-holding. So I would honestly recommend that you reach out to support@leaptodigital.com and get them involved to really understand what you're doing. We have worked with a number of different customers that have either internally built or custom CRM systems or external integrations that they like to use, but oftentimes that does require a little bit of extra depth. So be aware that you should bring them into the loop. They will be able to steer you in the right direction. If not, either Steve or myself can help get involved in that. The next is, will new credit applications be creatable, updatable via the new site, or still the old site dependent?
Yes, so right now they're creatable, and we have a template that like if you wanted a credit application, we have built a generic one that you can basically just populate it to. The drag and drop editor is not 100% on there, so what they're alluding to is in the credit app section, it works a little bit different than contracts, or the contract templates that we showed. But very shortly, you will be able to do full functionality on the credit app section to be able to edit all those different fields. Drag and drop them, add your own, change the disclosures, etc. But at this time, you have to either use one of our partner templates or use the template that we have created as a generic, which has pretty much all the fields that you would need to run a credit application.
Yeah, you guys, if you want to use the generic application, feel free to reach out to us. We use it in our demo accounts. It's basically the lowest common denominator of any one of our partners or any one of the credit applications that we run into. So almost anything and everything can be covered on it. It's all password protected, so if one of your reps does use that generic credit app in the field, they fill it all out. They can have that customer fill out all the signature points as well. When they save that, that gets pushed back to login.leaptodigital.com in that attachment section, and it is password protected so that only the right people can access that who are approved to look at that level of pertinent data. So again, you can use that. Just reach out to us, support@leaptodigital.com. We're more than happy to copy and paste that one into your account. That's just our gift to you because we like you. Next one. Are we able to take signatures without connectivity? Mike, this one goes out to you. The answer, yes, you can. The signature functionality is directly built into the contract section of Leap. When you're building out the contracts using the template editor that Steve created, you can add the signature points, the initial points, all of those throughout the document per your legal advisors. If they say, hey, we need a signature there, cool, drop one in there. And at that point, as they go through, even without connectivity, you can fully sign that. We do it all the time. And there's literally thousands and thousands of estimates happening per day. So anyway, that's something we can do as well. We'll take one more question. Obviously, we got to wrap this thing up. We've gone pretty long. So I want to make sure that we answer all these. If we weren't able to get in touch with you, feel free to reach out to us at support@leaptodigital.com. We're always happy to answer your one-off questions as well. So the next one that we're going to throw in there, is there a plan to add any auto sync or live update to the price guide like the contracts, or add an alert pop for employees to sync?
So the app, when a user opens up the application, and behind the scenes, it is checking that if it needs an update, I believe once every, it's either day or 3 days, I can't remember. So it's either once every 24 hours or once every 72 hours that the application will check. And if anything has changed in the price guide, then it will update itself. So, and that's so that it can work without an internet connection, because obviously if there is no internet, it has no way of syncing. So anytime it connects, it will check to see if it's been, let's say, 24 hours. And if it has, then it would check to see if anything has changed. If it did, then it would download all the new information.
Awesome. So you guys, we've got a ton of questions in there. Again, we got to wrap the time now. We'll try and reach out to you guys individually as well. Feel free, again, I know I sound like a broken record, but I apologize. If you have any additional questions, you can always reach out to us. Go to our website, click the little chat bubble, reach out to us via chat. You can always dial in to our main number that's on our website. Option 3 will take you to the support teams. Support@leaptodigital.com. is the email in which you can reach out to with any of your questions as well. Feel free to give us a bump or a bulleted list of everything that you need from us. And then lastly, you guys, just as a reminder, this page is going to go officially live at the stroke of midnight tonight. So login.leaptodigital.com is going to reflect the new site. All of the functionality and the features will be live on there. If you have any questions throughout, you get lost, you need a tour guide, whatever it is, or if you're interested in any of those pro services like we mentioned, feel free to reach out to us. We're always here to help. And lastly, as a shameless pitch again for partnerships, if there is somebody that we aren't currently integrated with that you feel would be an asset to make your life easier and probably everybody else on Leap, feel free to push those guys to reach out to us, or feel free to do warm introductions. We're always happy to take those and run with them. So again, we're so grateful to have each and every one of you as an active member of the Leap family. For those of you who are not yet customers, we'll absolutely be reaching out to each one of you guys individually. Thank you so much for going over time today, you guys. Steve, Kaynat, you guys are rock stars. This is amazing what you've been able to build. Thank you so much. Any last words you want to share with the guys before we dial out?
I just have one. I seen one person came in late and asked if the webinar was recorded. I know we record them, but how will they be able to view it?
Got that question in the bag. So yes, they are recorded. 2, we are going to be distributing out to anyone who registered for this. We'll send you the link via, it'll be our YouTube channel. It'll also be updated onto our YouTube channel online. So we'll go ahead, send you an email with that link directly in there. You can watch it at your leisure, all hour and 30 minutes of it. And then from there, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us as well. So again, thank you guys so much for taking the time. Steve, Kaynat, high fives.
Yep.
You guys are awesome.
Yep.
Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Have an awesome rest of your week, and we'll see you soon.
See you.
Thank you.